Maybe you too have heard of this niche, under-the-radar indie show called Arcane. I sure have, and I thought to myself, this show deserves some attention. So, in honor of their second season, I'm gonna make Jinx's gun POW POW. That's what it's called, I didn't name it. And also, in spirit of unnecessary suffering, I want to make it spin. Now, I have zero experience with this, I am not an engineer, I don't know anything about electronics or physics, so this is a first for me, so we'll see how it goes. Also, I am going to freehand everything. So no patterns, I'm just gonna wing it, and I'm sure it will have zero consequences. Now, when I have a look at this gun, it is very clear to me that this will require some precise planning, intricate wiring and some solid mechanics. I have to approach this thing a bit less caveman than usual and figure out how to make it move. The first thing that comes to mind when making something move is a motor. I don't have a Gatling gun motor laying around because I am European, but I do have cheap Chinese electronics. It's a very small thing that has to power a very big thing, so I have to find a way to do it. So that's why I made this blueprint. And as you can see at the back of the gun, we have the motor that powers a gear, a small gear. And this small gear then in turn powers a bigger gear on a stick. And if I can make this stick move, everything will move. Math scares me, so this is the best I can come up with. Anyway, let's just make a mock-up first and we'll get to the electronics after. Now, smart people would probably just 3D print this entire gun and it would be way easier and cleaner. But no, I have been using CosplayShop materials for the last 10 years and I don't want to change that. To make the gears, I am using Captainghostly's trusty laser cutter. Do I need to? No, but the laser cutter is just the only thing that consistently works in my life. Also with no, I mean yes, because cutting out an accurate gear by hand is just not how I want to spend my day. So you're probably wondering, why are you using the material that will most likely disintegrate the moment it starts causing friction? That's a great question. I don't have an answer though. Anyway, look at this mock-up. Alright, so what I have here is a proof of concept. It just means that it spins. So now let's make it for real. First off, I cut off the half circle base shape out of Sintra. This will be the base to house all the mechanical parts. And there we go, the same thing as the mock-up, but just better, I guess. Now we just have to automate it. So, toy car, some soldering, a gear and a switch, and I made a bomb. And it works. It's as stable as my sleep schedule, but it works and that's what's important. I just have to make some adjustments. Alright, so it spins, that's great. However, what if it also smokes? Does it make sense? Not really, but I bought a smoke machine and I want to use it. Alright, 3, 2. Well, that's disappointing. I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it. Alright, again. 3, 2. Alright, yeah, this is much better, but I might be dying. Anyway, this is what success looks like. Oh, by the way, a big issue my poo-poo brain didn't think about is friction. Since I jammed this rod on top of the frame like that, there's a lot of it. And it's only gonna get worse if I'm gonna build on top of that. Which I started doing. Anyway, I just ordered some small bearings, threw them on there, and now it just works, no biggie. However, I did have to remake the whole thing from scratch again. Good thing it only impacts my mental state and not the video. There's also like this emoji thing going on at the front. I just used a laser cutter for this and then glued it all together. That's it. It's just a big circle with an emoji on it. What can I say? To build the gun around the spinning frame, I start with the big cylinder. Think revolver chamber, but dumber. I made it out of foam and mounted it on 2 giant circles resting on the rod. And those 2 circles are just attached the exact same way as I attached the gear at the beginning. Oh yeah, I also quickly noticed that it just didn't look quite right, so I made it again, but better, and I forgot to record it. Of course. Then I tackled the dome at the back, and I have to say I took some creative liberties for this to make it work. I used Sintra to divide it into 2 parts, because Sintra is sturdy as hell, but I can thankfully shape it with heat. I also made some adjustments for the power bank and the button. But why in 2 parts? Well, you have to be able to pop one side off so you can still access the electronics. Velcro worked, magnets didn't. Life's a mystery. One side has a vent as well, so I cut that out and fill it in again with some Sintra straps. This is also where the smoke will come out, so let's pretend I planned this from the very start. Next up, the handle. I need this to not only look good, but it also has to support the gun's weight and house the spin button. So I just stacked Sintra on top of each other, cut holes for the button, then did a lot of sanding and bolted it together. It's sturdy, probably. All the details you see is just 5 and 2mm foam that I freehanded, and I also use some cos tools for the circles. Honestly, this part is pretty easy since I just freehand every piece and I just try to make it look cool and functional. The little skull on top, foam, knife, heat gun, done. Now I kinda feel bad that I didn't use the same technique for the big ass skull at the front and I used the laser cutter. I didn't really have to, but I did. I don't know why. Alright, so I've been building this thing for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and I feel like a child in school with an old iPhone, because as I'm building this, I'm also watching Arcane, and the second this gun came into frame, they just destroyed it, and not only that, they gave her a new gun, so you know, it's no longer relevant. Anyway, I can just hold it like this, it's very sturdy. But now comes the part I have been dreading since the very beginning, and that is the front piece, because it has a frame around the part that rotates and I have to be able to hold it with a handle, but of course we can't have any friction because then it doesn't rotate anymore. But I think I might have found a solution. Balls. But before I come to that dreaded front piece, I have to make the frame around the revolver chamber thing. This is pretty much all foam that I stacked in a way so that it doesn't touch the rotating parts, which is very important. You can also see those 2 things on the side of the gun. This has to be very solid because this will support the front piece. So I just freehanded it once more and put it in place with glue and bolts. Now you see this big thing in front that goes around the barrel? Yeah, fuck that, it causes friction. So I already bought like a stronger motor, didn't help, so I need bigger bearings. So you know those small bearings that I used at the beginning of the video? That, but bigger, 20 centimeters. But you can't buy them online. Well, you can, but it costs like 200 euros for one, and I need 2 of them, so I'm not gonna do that. So I need to make this stupid thing myself. First thing I tried after doing some research is making a bearing out of foam, which was obviously too flimsy. So this whole ordeal got me in a rabbit hole of making bearing after bearing, and it just never worked. Now I have tried making this thing for days now. I'm even losing sleep over it, and I made it like 5 times and it never worked. But in the end, I made it out of Sintra and wood with a lot of balls, and it still doesn't work. I give up. But in the end, Captainghostly just 3D printed me one, and it just works beautifully, so shout out to him. Thank you. Then finally I have to put everything together like a Lego set. This is pretty much boring and tedious work, and I have no idea what to comment on that. So enjoy the edit. It's been 2 weeks since I last talked to the camera, and foam build is finished. So here's the result. I have combined the power of bad engineering and questionable material choices, and it all worked out in the end. Is it functional? Kinda. And does it look cool? Maybe. Let's just start the painting process and make it look cool, hopefully. Now, as always, before painting, I have to prime. I used the black Cospaint for this, so I did everything by hand. I just always hate priming. It's boring, but it's also very necessary. Alright, so I like to think that this gun is made out of silver and gold colored pieces, and that Jinx just painted on top of it with some purple when she was feeling like I used to feel when I was dyeing my hair at 2 AM. So that means for the gold and black, I really wanted to keep it clean. The purple though, I just wanted to look messy and look painted. Now, once I got the base coats done, this is important, I started dry brushing some metal colors on top of the black parts, you know, to at least try and make it look a bit real. To shade it, I just used black Cospaints, not much to tell here, just put it in places where dust would naturally collect and yada yada yada. And for the gold, I just used a brownish color because black would just be too extreme for this. But since this is Arcane, right, the highlights are just way more important. So I decided to use white on the gold and iron parts. And for the purple, I used pink. And I just kinda overdid it a lot because of course it has to look real, but it's also still an animation. At the very last moment, the idea came to me to just throw some purple paint at the gun. That's terrifying. You know, trying to make it look at least a little bit unhinged, and clearly Jinx would not have painted this in 2 days but rather like 10 minutes, so it kinda has to look like that as well. And of course I can't forget my usual finishing coat of satin Lucas spray. Alright, and it's finished. Now, is it perfect? No, not really, but I learned a lot and it was a lot of fun making it, and that's all that matters, right? Right? Now I just hope that it doesn't fall apart after 5 minutes when I'm shipping this to Norafawn. That would suck, actually. But you know, at least I have it on video. Anyway, all materials used will be listed in the description down below. Subscribe, or else. I will see you guys in the next one.